have two neat dresses today. Here's a brand new pattern from Pattern Emporium called Long Weekend Dress. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing, limitless sewing. So this pattern is for knit fabrics. It's a fitted dress, it's a fitted tank dress, and you can make it as long or as short as you want to. Officially on the pattern piece, you have 3 lengths: above the knee, below the knee, and really long. On the side seams, you have slits, splits, and here on the neckline, it's a little higher. It's a sort of a cutaway armhole. It sort of looks a little bit like a halter neckline somehow, but not completely. And the way it's finished is with a wide binding technique. I really love it. I've used it for other patterns at Pattern Emporium. I haven't seen that technique anywhere else, and it looks really cool, looks really professional. And if you've been watching my channel, you know I already uploaded the technique 2 days ago. So you already know how to sew it, and you saw a little bit of a sneak peek of my dress. Otherwise, it's super nicely shaped, comes in at the waist, goes out at the hip. And what is golden at the back is that to avoid any fabric pulling there at the small of your back, there is a seam, horizontal seam. So for the back, you have a bodice and then a skirt piece. Once you sew those together, then you have your completed back piece that you'll sew with on the shoulders and whatnot. I love that because it does a sort of a sway back adjustment there for you, and I think the fit is superb. Kate, who is the owner of Pattern Emporium, has done that with other fitted dresses as well, and I think the result is super nice. If you want to know more about sway back and it's an issue that you might have, I have a full video on the channel showing you all about sway back, why it might not be a sway back problem but other problems. And I've shown you there the fit of many dresses, showing you a poor fit and a good fit and how to fix that. Well, one of the things I always think is that if you have a fitted something in a knit fabric, you need some type of seam, either a vertical seam or a horizontal seam. If you have a back that's just on the fold on its own, you will probably have pulling on the small of your back. And I think having this horizontal line there is not a bad thing. I think it's amazing, and it just makes the fit so much better. If you want to, there's an optional sash that you can sew with the same fabric and just tie it around your waist if you want to highlight your waist. I haven't done that with any of mine. And if you did do that sash, it would actually cover the seam on the back if that bothers you. It does not bother me at all. Whenever Pattern Emporium has a brand new pattern, it's 15% off for a few days. This time the sale goes through the 18th of February, but in Australian time. If you get confused with the time change, because it's quite a few hours over here on this side of the world, when you look at the website, there's always a countdown on the top, like a banner, that tells you you have 2 days left, you have 7 hours left. So that's an easy way to find out and not miss on the sale. And as usual, there are other patterns that can go with this dress that are also 15% off. The ones that I've made already and have videos about are the Songbird and the Smitten jacket. And there's also the Reconnect cardigan that I've got a video about. Have a look at those as well if you want to save 15%, and I already have the content here. When I get to the styling section, I will be using the Songbird and the Smitten to pair with these dresses. I think it's perfect match. If you want to use my affiliate link, I'm super grateful. You don't pay anything extra. I just receive a small commission back, and that is one of the ways I make an income doing this work on YouTube. You need knit fabric that stretches at least 30% vertically and at least 20% horizontally. Can't stretch more, of course, but at least you need that. Please don't use knit fabric that only stretches horizontally and has 0 vertical stretch, because it just won't end up fitting properly. It will end up riding up and just sitting shorter on you. Just discard if you have any fabric like that, and just use fabric that's recommended, because it is a fitted design and you want it to fit properly and be comfortable. So make sure you get stretch in every direction here and you'll be good. You can use cotton lycra, you can use double brush poly. Although if I use double brush poly, because it's a little lighter weight, I would wear a slip underneath. The same goes for rayon spandex, bamboo spandex, modal spandex. It's not that you can't use them, they just might end up fitting a little looser and end up being a little longer than what you expect. And if I made one in that type of fabric, I would use a slip underneath, a tight fitted slip, so that I'm not too exposed. Because those fabrics tend to be a little bit clingy, and you can see underwear, bra lines, that it's not nice, you know. For ITY, I would do the same thing. I would do the slip. I think for the wide binding, ITY would be hard to work with. It sometimes doesn't have great recovery as well. So I would probably use something else for the bands if I was making a dress in an ITY. For Pontiroma, I have mixed feelings about that. I've bought so many types of different Pontiromas that are sold as Pontiroma, but when you look at the fabric composition and when you actually touch it, it's got a really different hand, and some of them might be super stiff and super structured. In that case, I would not want to use that fabric for this dress. But if it's a little softer, it has some rayon in there, a little bit more spandex, I would. So it just depends on how it feels. Rim knit is sort of the same because it's so different. Some of them stretch out and start growing until tomorrow because they don't have much spandex in there. Others are more hefty and you stretch them and they do bounce back. So I think you have to really look at the fabric and see. I would not want to use anything that will end up growing on you and deforming. That means that your fabric does have to have spandex in the composition and not just be one type of fiber there, even if it is a knit. Another fabric you could use is a swim fabric. I have used swim fabric before for non-swim things and I think it works as well. The two fabrics I've chosen, you have already seen me sew other garments with before, both of them with Pattern Emporium patterns. One is a stretch velvet and I made a slay all day long skirt with a slit. Gorgeous, love that fabric, it's perfect. I had fabric left from that. I thought I'm needing a black dress. The other one is an athletic knit that I had left over for making the Walk Boldly pants, also from Pattern Emporium, wide leg knit pants. Why not have a leopard dress, you know? Sizing goes from 4 to 30 Australian. Size 30 goes up to a 58.5-inch hip. It is a fitted design and you'll find finished garment measurements here for the bust, the waist and the hips. The bust is fitted, it has to be. When you look at the size chart, you'll see that for each size there's a range of measurements there. It depends on where your measurement hits in that range. The ease at the waist is going to be anywhere from 1/2 inch to 2.5 inches. Depends if you're on the low end of the range or the higher end of the range. So it's not zero ease, there is some extra space there. And then at the bottom, as you keep going down to your full hip, you're going to have a bit of negative ease, anywhere from 3/4 of an inch to 2 inches, depending on where you fall in the range of the size. So it's fine. It's supposed to be a fitted dress. You remember, we're working with stretch fabric. I'm not against having negative ease at the hip because I think it looks better. Just know that it's a fitted design. Maybe if you want to have a little less ease at the hips, maybe you want to blend out to the next size, not because you need to because of the size, but because you just want more space. I've sewn a size 18. I didn't make any changes to the pattern at all. I just cut it, I sew it. It's been like that since I started making Pattern Emporium. Usually these are designed so well, so I don't anticipate you having much fitting problems at all. And for the length, I chose above the knee length as usual. You know, on the pattern piece you have it way longer. That's fine. I just like it short. I'm still liking it and I'm probably going to like it for years to come. If you would like to know the length of all these options, they are clearly stated in the pattern, finished length for all of them. So if you know the length that you like, it's going to be easy for you to know how to adjust and how to customize to the specific length that you want. The split on the side starts a few inches above the knee on the side. I don't think it's showing anything at all. I think it's quite modest. So I wasn't going to change that. I have filmed some sewing for you, just general construction. This is so easy. Remember that you get through the whole dress and then at the end you do the binding. And the binding is in its own separate video. It looks like this. So let's see how to sew the long weekend dress. Here are the pattern pieces. It's not many of them. The front is just one piece. It's cut on the fold. What we have on top of the front here are the pieces for the binding. The shorter one is for the neckline, and here I have two for the armholes. Along the length here you'll find single notches and double notches to match the ones that you have on the armhole here, and it's going to make putting it all together super easy. The back has two pieces. You're going to see a horizontal seam on the back right at the small of your back at your waist height, and you can see with the shape here how there's already some shaping there. It's like a sway back adjustment has already been done, which is going to give you a super good fit. So these two need to be sewn together. Seam is actually one of the first steps that we get done. Not many pieces, 3 main pieces and then binding. It shouldn't be very complex to make at all. Got these two pieces pinned together. There is a slight curve right there, but it's going to be a pretty easy seam just done on the serger. Seam allowance for the pattern is 1/4 inch. So I'm going to be using the serger, but I'm also going to be using the sewing machine to sew the side seams. I just feel I get a smoother result that way. So I'll be doing a mix of both. here's the back, and now I've got the front, and what comes next is the shoulder seams. These shoulder seams are going to be completely covered by the binding later because we're doing a wide binding method. So I'm just going to sew them with a sewing machine and press the seam open. I don't really need to clean up the edges anyway because it's a knit, but it's not going to look messy either because the seam won't actually be seen in the end. I'm just going to change this to a zigzag, and we're going to make it look almost flat. And then stitch length, I'm going to do 3. So I'm just going to sew these with 1/4 inch seam allowance at the sewing machine. And all the seams I'm going to do at the sewing machine are going to be done with a narrow zigzag stitch. Next comes the side seams, and when we sew the side seam, there's a split here. There are a few things that we need to see about the split right here. I'll show you that at the sewing machine. I do want to sew the seam with a sewing machine with a narrow zigzag. I have already serged the edges. That is just my choice. Of course, you can sew it directly with the serger if you wanted to. If you are going to serge both of the layers together, at some point there needs to be an opening here for the slit on the side. So let's see that at the sewing machine. I'm going to show you what happens, but the way that I'm doing it, where I've just serged everything already, just makes the slit so much easier. Okay, this is one of the side seams. At a certain point, you're going to see 2 dots, and from these 2 dots down, the slit can be as small or as long as you want, depending on the length of the dress that you're making. My dress is not going to be that long, so my slit is not going to be that long. Here on this area, you can see a red dot. It's quite close to the edge because at this point, it's at 1/4 inch seam allowance, and that's what the dress has all the way up the side seam. But then from this point down, the seam allowance gets a little wider. So you can see this second dot right here that we have more seam allowance. From this dot to that dot, you need to make sure you sew with your sewing machine because this is where the seam is going to open up like this. From this dot up, you can sew with your serger both of these layers together. So what I would do if I was using the method in the pattern is have raw edges, of course. And then I would just separate all of this. And from a little above this dot, the first dot that you see there, I would serge. I would serge separately this side and this side, still leaving this way on up raw on both of the pieces. Once I have these edges already serged, that will form the split later, then I would go ahead and pin these, matching the dots. These edges would already be finished. And now I would go with my sewing machine and sew from here to there. I would use a narrow zigzag. I would go with my serger and start right there, and then go all the way up, and that's how the slit would be finished. But the way that I'm doing it is just easier because all my edges are serged already. All I have to do is sew from the top, the armhole area, go into the waist seam area, the hip, all the way down, go through that dot, and then finish on this dot right there. And then I just press everything open, and that's it. That's going to be my slit. So in the end, my way is going to be much easier, and then I'm just going to be able to press the seams open. I like pressing seams open with fabrics like this that are a little bit more structured. This is a medium weight athletic knit, and when I press seams open, they press really, really flat. I've been using the edge of my presser foot as a guide. I'm just going to repeat the same on the other side as well. Here is where that first dot is. I'm just going to go right through it at 1/4 inch seam allowance. And from here down, I'm going to go straight down to that dot, and you can see the seam allowance goes a little larger here. So that's how it looks. We're going to have more seam allowance for the slit over here. We're not going to have 1/4 inch. This is about 1/2 inch right there. But then from the rest up, it's going to be 1/4 inch. So that's how it's going to look when it's pressed open. This is how I like to do it. And I think doing it like this turns out easier, because you don't have to do the slit in stages, but both ways are valid. This is the neckline, and now that we have the side seam sewn, we also have the armhole, so we can sort out the binding. What comes next is a wide binding technique, and I have a separate video on the channel showing you all the details. Here I have my binding pieces. It's quite an easy technique that you'll see with other Pattern Emporium patterns as well. So I'll leave that link down below. After finishing this binding on the neckline and the armhole, all that's left to do is the hem and finish the slit on the side, which is super easy. This is my leopard print one. Look, I know the fabric is a bit much. I even look at it and think, wow, it's a bit much. I've never worn leopard print, on a dress, but I think it's really, really beautiful. I think I would have a problem with leopard print if the neckline was really revealing. Then I would be, no, I can't. But because the neckline comes a little higher and the armhole coverage is so good, I'm all okay with the leopard print. It's so nice. The white binding looks so professional. I top stitched it down here with a twin needle. The color blends really well into the print so you can barely see it. Everything's neat inside, and I always serge that edge there because I don't want to leave it raw. Here are the armholes. Look, one tip I'm going to give you. If you decide to try your dress on before putting the binding, don't do it. I mean, maybe you want to. I did try it on, and what you see is that the armhole is really low. You get like a pleat over here. You think, oh my gosh, this is going to fit horribly, but it's not. Just trust the process. Remember, the binding we're sewing on here is shorter. It's going to bring it all in, and once I'd sewn the binding and tried it on, the fit was completely different over here, above the bust, around here. It's a little higher than what it looked like without the binding on. So if you want to have a bit of anxiety for yourself, go ahead and try it on before putting on the binding. But just know that once you put the binding, everything's going to be okay. In here, the shoulder seam, I decided to just press those seams open and not finish them because the binding covers the whole thing over here. And then you just have a nicely fitted dress. At the back, there's a seam that you can't see at all with this print. It's like it wasn't even there, but it is there, and it makes the dress fit so good. When I use fabrics like this, I like sewing my seams with the sewing machine and pressing the seams open just like you would in a woven. And I did that for the side seams. But over here for this seam that unites the top back bodice with this back skirt, I just did it straight on the serger. So it all depends. I didn't need to press that seam open, but I did want to press this one open right here. So I was able to sew at 1/4 inch with my sewing machine, and that made the process of the slit over here so much easier. Hem allowance is 1 inch. So it's all up to you. You know, you can go ahead and use the serger. That's fine. I just prefer it this way. Let's see my leopard print long weekend dress all on its own, full glory, and then we'll have some toppers. This is my first long weekend dress, and believe it or not, it's an amazing animal print. I never thought there'd be a day when I'd make an animal print dress, but here we are, and I absolutely love it. Mine is the above the knee length with a slit on the side. The slits are optional. I have an athletic knit here that I've used before with a pair of pants, so I already knew the fabric and how it was going to behave. I have a straight size 18, 0 fitting adjustments. I just cut my size and made it, and I think the fit is outstanding. The back there, you can't really see the seam because of the print, but there is a seam at the small of your back that has a built-in sway back adjustment, so there's no fabric pulling there at the small of my back. There is a little bit of space at the waist. It's not extra fitted there, a little more fitted on the hip, and there is a slit. Doesn't show too much leg, so I'm quite happy with that. I really love this length. It's my favorite length. And up on the top, you can see the neckline is a little higher. The armhole is a little cut away into the base of the neck. There's more shoulder seam here, so I just had to scoot my bra strap inwards a little bit. I absolutely love it. I think you can wear a regular bra with this. The white binding technique is super nice. I have it top stitched here with a twin needle. I think it looks super neat, super professional. It was really fun to sew, and I can't wait to wear this one out. I think it's a dress that is gonna catch some eyes, and I'm not mad about that. Let's see it on with some toppers in different styles now, because here it was just on its own, so you could see its full glory with gorgeous heels. Here is a casual look. I just pulled out one of the brown tones in the print, and I have some matching leather sneakers and bag there to go along with it. If I wanted to, I can carry around this linen topper. It's just a shirt, sleeveless. It's a refashion I made years ago that I wear a lot as a little light layer, and I really love it here. There is black in the print, so this is all okay. I think that topper does tone down the outfit a little bit, and so do the sneakers. So I'm really happy I can wear this dress for whatever occasion I want. Just depends on how I style it, and I have a lot of fun doing that. Here I've just toned the outfit down by wearing heels that match my skin tone, so you can barely see the shoes there. It's just the dress that shines with the dark red topper. This is my songbird in linen. I really like this pattern because you can make it in a knit or a woven, and I love this color. Not too casual or dressed up, just in between, and I really love that. I love that the leopard print can be a neutral, and I can pair it with any color I want really. Those shoes are everything. They're so comfortable, and they have a little heel. which makes them super walkable. Love the dress, super love it, and I don't regret using the leopard print here. This is my gorgeous black version in the stretch velvet. It's got a lovely texture that looks like baby cord. I've made quite a few garments out of this type of fabric. Look, it's got the same wide binding. The only difference that I made with this one is because the fabric is fuzzy, I didn't top stitch above here, I just stitched in the ditch right there. It's all invisible right there, and it looks super neat, super clean like that with no stitching right there. So that's the only difference. I did top stitch it down. It's just in the ditch instead of on the top with a twin needle like I did with the leopard print. Otherwise, it's all the same. I made sure to cut these pieces, everything in the same direction because of the nap situation here. I have that back seam that you can see there. Little slit was sewn, everything in the exact same way. It was all the same. I actually sewed this one first, and it took me a while to cut and sew just because the fabric is harder to work with. Let's see this one on by itself and with a few toppers as well. Here's my long weekend dress from Pattern Emporium. I sewed a straight size 18. It's a classic little black dress. I love it. It's gonna be great on its own and under things as well. There's a little side slit there that's really cute, shorter because my dress is shorter. My length is above the knee. You can make it longer. There's 2 other longer length options. It follows my shape beautifully. There is a horizontal seam at the small of the back. It's a type of built-in sway back adjustment which makes the fit on the back superb, very good. The line is exactly at the small of my back. This is a cutaway armhole. It comes closer to the base of your neck, so you have to shuffle your bra strap a little inwards there, but it's fine. I'm not showing anything. It's not a racer back or a halter style. It's a very, very interesting armhole, but I think the coverage is excellent. I really enjoy the wide binding technique. You can see how to sew that on my channel. It's very neat. In this case, I've top stitched it down using stitch in the ditch so that you can't really see it, and the seam is sort of buried in that stretch velvet there. I like how modest the neckline is, a little higher. And this is just an amazing little black dress. I know I'm going to really enjoy. I really needed one. My current fitted little black dress is like 13 years old. So long weekend dress is perfect. Here's a casual look with some sneakers. On top I have my songbird in linen. A little black dress like this for me can be the base for colorful tops, print or solid. It's just a really versatile piece to have. It's going to be a workhorse because I can use it in so many ways. I love layering on top, and just being black and simple makes whatever you put on top shine. And I love this casual outfit. I could walk around all day like this, be super comfy, and my long weekend dress goes perfect underneath the songbird. Here I've got some gorgeous green heels that match my green linen smitten jacket, also from Pattern Emporium. The jacket is a little shorter. I think it goes really well with a fitted dress. The dress isn't extremely fitted, so I feel really good, really comfortable like this, and I know I'm really going to enjoy this outfit. I feel amazing. You can see those little slits on the side aren't too high. I'm not showing that much leg. It's all good. You can modify that to your liking. And if you want to, you can just sew that and not have the slits if you're doing the shorter dress. If you're doing the longer ones, I think you do need the slits to be able to walk around. But for a shorter style like this, they are totally optional, but I love them. I really like them. I think they fit amazing. They look amazing. The coverage here is great. You can move your strap up and then you'll be fine. Yeah, you do have to be careful about what type of bra you use and where you set the strap so that it doesn't show. But it's still good coverage over here, which I really want, and I'm very happy with how they turned out. I know that black one is going to be worn to bits in every type of weather. Probably not in the peak of summer, but all the other seasons, spring, autumn, winter, I'll be wearing that under things, under jackets, by itself, in all different ways. I love it. And the leopard print, what can I say? Years ago I'd said I'd never wear animal print because it's just not for me, but lately it has become, and it's got to do with the print, and I think this print is amazing. So happy I have it. Don't forget to check out the long weekend tank dress. It's 15% off through the 18th of February in Australian time. Have a look what that is to you, and don't forget to use my affiliate link if you'd like to support my work. That's all from me, and I'll see you again very soon with more sewing over here. Bye.